Today's class studio theme is Locks and Keys. First, I'll read Sandy's poem, By Years the Obstacles, at Night the Scars, and answer it with my poem, A Visual Representation of Time. And the stained glass you'll see are rose windows made from construction paper and colored film by students at the school where I work. Artist Gretchen Caruso, my fantastic colleague, teaches our third graders about radial balance, where visual elements are arranged around a central point. You can see it in nature in snowflakes, flowers, eyes, and we humans replicate radial balance in objects like the rose window, like wheels, and like clocks and watches. The central visual point of Sandy's poem is the Lovelock fence of padlocks overlooking the Mystic River near her home in Connecticut. The speaker in the poem doesn't know about this tradition of attaching padlocks to fences or bridges and throwing keys into nearby bodies of water as a symbol of love. But not only does this make the poem more poignant, it helps turn that metaphor on its head. After all, seeing a bunch of rusty old master locks locked to a fence becomes less a reminder of everlasting love than it is a symbol that when love is locked down, it doesn't flourish. It rusts, it buckles under its own weight. Better to join with the speaker's wish in this poem, to wait for a mythical smith to unbolt all the locks from their mystic burdens. Here goes. By Years the Obstacles, at Night the Scars, by Sandra Yannone. So I turn into a mystic, seeking to be the metal key that unlocks locks. Or better yet, never going near a physical one, just prying open any urge to wonder, to shepherd that converse with others. It can happen in any dark horse city at any time. Vermilion, York, Walla Walla, Kalamazoo, at any underdog motel check-in or eager roadside diner over any understated meal. Watch. You unbolt your mouth to release a sound, then close it before you speak to create a space for the voice sitting next to you. You confirm this method when the hardware store in your hometown cannot duplicate a key to save anyone's life, or, more urgently put, to your family's stained glass studio. You return 3 times after 3 different clerks make adaptations to the previous key. You never knew making a replacement required a kind of magic. But now the Ace Hardware on Main Street has you reconsidering why you have trusted ground-down grooves on a metal shaft to grant you entry into the unknown that exists behind any door. And what about those locks that can't possibly possess keys? I've seen them lately on a drive to Providence. I stop at the scenic overlook, overgrown, off I-95 on the edge of Mystic. Bolted to the rusting chain-link fence that suggests preventing anyone from jumping to the tracks below, hundreds of padlocks dangling in the salty Mystic air. The mystic in me seeks a placard, a sign, a historical marker, anything to reveal what's behind this random curtain of padlocks occupying the chains like bird shadows populate a wire. Not even Houdini could hide that many lockpicks inside his mouth to dare escape. I can manifest no logical or illogical explanations for what I witness. I drive away to Providence. Weeks later, I still see the ghost image of that scarred roadside fence, waiting for some mythical smith to unbolt all the locks from their mystic burdens. This next poem sprung from research Sandy and I did for a presentation on Weldon Kees poetry for the Nebraska Book Festival in 1993. We were just a little obsessed with Weldon Kees back then, and honestly, we still are. Weldon Kees was born in Beatrice, Nebraska in 1914, and he was such an enigmatic artist with limitless talents. He was a poet, but also a painter, sculptor, critic, musician, filmmaker, photographer, behavioral scientist, and he didn't just dabble in this stuff. He was brilliant, and not just in Nebraska, but also New York City and San Francisco, where he rubbed shoulders with the greats. Best of all, he'd just kind of disappear right before any scene became too mainstream. One of my favorite disappearances was when Kees left New York City and moved to San Francisco, literally weeks before Life magazine wanted him to pose for a photograph as part of a group of abstract expressionist artists that also included de Kooning, Rothko, Pollock. Kees was literally out of the picture by then, already studying jazz piano and working on the book Nonverbal Communication with psychiatrist Jürgen Rusch. Sandy and I saw this same disappearing act in his poetry, where the poems seem to be set in a present where everyone's just stepped out for a minute with no promise of return. His photographs for the Nonverbal Communication book are also bleak and unsettled, but Sandy and I saw hope in all of his work, too, glimpses of light here and there. Our favorite hopeful line is in his poem 1926, which begins and ends with the porch light coming on again. You'll hear this line in the poem I'll read to you now, a poem that naturally begins with an epigraph by Weldon Kees. Enjoy. A Visual Representation of Time by Kate Flaherty. A speck in time, secured, sustained between the future and the past by space, by headlights and the haunted streets, endures and is not lost. Weldon Kees, The Hourglass. The world and time spins, while memory relegates everything to repetition. Repetition becomes routine as we perform the same mistakes indefinitely, relentlessly. Indefinitely, relentlessly, time spins in its vacuum, where nostalgia fools us into remembering differently. Remembering differently turns nostalgia to fact. Once facts are fungible, no future exists. No, future exists as a linear process, a logical progression toward a reconciliation with time. A reconciliation with time allows this poem to declare, I am remembering, this is true. Yesterday, always, tomorrow. Tomorrow, we find the keys to learn again, though the world and time still spins like the second hand, minute hand, hour, like sand sliding down the throat of the hourglass. The hourglass holds future and past and present in each speck of sand, and present in each speck of sand is our lesson. Learn sunlight if you can, like a porch light coming on again.